welcome to the third in the series of the Pro Landscaper online summits. The focus today is for SME companies. We have around 200 people joining us, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen in, and a special thank you to the people who have already posted questions, which we will get through as and when we can. But we do have a fantastic panel, the panel of a mixture of designers and landscapers, all running small SME businesses. We have Karen McClure from Karen McClure Garden and Landscape Design, Arthur Krempel from Arthur Krempel Garden Design, David Sewell, who runs Garden Makers and is also currently the chair of the APL, Harman from Acacia Gardens, who runs a company out of North London, and then following we've got Craig Nestor from Habitat Landscapes, who is based out of Milton Keynes area, so a complete mixture of different people. I am going to ask them shortly to do a quick introduction into their company to give you an idea of the size and what they're up to, and also how the virus has affected them over the last couple of 3 or 4 weeks now, and maybe some of the things that they're doing to placate the situation. The other debates we've had have all been quite positive. We've looked at the big commercial and domestic landscaping sector from a contractor's point of view. And, you know, overall it was, let's get going, and as soon as this is over, we're going to be back up to speed. And the last one we've done was a bit more of a mixture of all different sized companies and different disciplines. And again, there did seem to be quite a positive outcome once we get over the hurdle that we're currently in. So I'm going to start with Craig. If you just sort of talk, Craig, about your business, what you do and what's happened over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I guess, you know, what you're doing with your staff, what you're doing, anything on site at the moment, or if you pull back completely.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So I'm co-owner of Habitat Landscape. So at the moment, well, we had 15 staff, a mixture of employed and subcontractors. At the moment, we have a couple of furlough staff that aren't doing anything, including my business partner. All of our subcontractors at the moment are not working bar 2. I'll explain that in a minute. And we've sort of gone above and beyond with trying to help them out with as much information as we can to what's available to them. We had, before the lockdown started, we had 4 live projects, and currently we have 1 which has been deemed as an essential work from a safety aspect that is ongoing. That will finish at the end of this week, and then as we stand at the moment, we're holding on new projects from a supply perspective. So our business was due to hit £1 million turnover this year. That's not going to happen anymore. So we're just below that in terms of size, and we focus solely on domestic garden builds.
Okay, David?
I've been running the Garden Makers for 16 years now. We were quite a bit bigger, but I scaled it right down a few years ago, and now I've been running with 5 guys fairly consistently for the last 4 or 5 years. I've got a really good team, and if we take on a bigger project, I tend to pull in subcontractors to help with that, and we have a good network of people that we work with. As far as we're based in South Warwickshire, as far as COVID is concerned, I furloughed everybody on the 24th of March, but I have from yesterday unfurloughed 2 of them. The other 2 are sort of shielding vulnerable people. Both one of them has a child on the way, and the other one has a child who is 3 months old and has been on a ventilator already. So I completely understand that. But I will pull in a subcontractor who's kicking us out so that we can actually get on, because we're on a large project of sort of 12 weeks for 5 guys, or with only 2 guys on it, it's going to take forever. So we do need to push on with that. But that's where we are at the moment.
Okay. Martha?
I'm a garden designer. I work mainly in London. I work on residential and commercial projects, and I don't have any actual employees. I work collaboratively with others. I set up a maintenance arm to support the work I've done already in people's gardens, and I work collaboratively with various people in the landscape industry. I haven't had to furlough anybody. I have continued, I did finish 1 job, where it was just down to getting the plants in, and so to keep the client very happy during the period of lockdown. My subcontractors, lots of landscapers I know have furloughed their crew, which is totally understandable given the circumstances. And when we have worked on site, we reduced the crew down to only people who could get to work in their own car, so no public transport, and also kept to the government guidelines. And at the moment, so we've stopped work pretty much altogether, bar design work continues anyway.
Okay. Herman?
Everyone, I'm director of Acacia Gardens. We are similar size to Craig, 15 of us, 10 employed and 5 self-employed on our team. I'm the director of the company, and it's only 4 of us at the moment that are working, myself, the operations manager, and we got the maintenance team that are working. My plan is to get one of the landscaping team to start work very soon, because we know what's going on at the moment and we can get them to work safely, and got all the risk assessment method statements. APO has been great on that, Barley, and so got to put them together to get this team to work. And yeah, that's our turnover last year just exceeded over £1 million. Overall, 80% is mainly build projects, and we've got a small team of designing and maintaining.
Okay, and Karen, for the last on this question.
Good.
Yeah, lovely.
Morning all, hope you're all holding up okay. So I'm run a design business in Tunbridge Wells. I have 4 employees, and we also use a few other talented freelancers that we bring in when work requires a bit more help, and also have a work placement student from Hadlow College, so that's how the team's made up. At the moment we've got 14 projects on at the moment. Now they're in various stages, so we've got 6 at design stage, which is obviously pre-lockdown and COVID and what have you. 6 at design stage, 4 that should be at build stage but are obviously on hold at the moment, and then 4 at planting stage, which again they're at hold at the moment as well. We have had inquiries since lockdown, so since the 30th of March we've had about 6 or 7 new inquiries, which is encouraging, and I'm equally quite surprised about, actually, and even a fee proposal that's been accepted 2 weeks ago. So we did have quite a few clients that kind of went AWOL and put things on hold, and all of our planting projects, which we do ourselves, we've put on hold. So I decided that I would furlough the team. Funnily enough, it was our first anniversary of becoming a limited company, and sort of to celebrate, I ended up furloughing the whole team. Next year we'll be celebrating a bit more, but so I decided to furlough them. But now actually I've become quite overwhelmed and really busy, so I'm going to unfurlough one of the team next week, because we seem to have enough work to kind of keep going. So it's quite black and white for me to kind of stop planting and just keep everyone safe, and we can carry on still working remotely on the design side of things, and it's a great opportunity to work on the business. So I'm, as of next week, I will unfurlough one of them. So that's where I'm at with the team at the moment.
So just a quick question for me then, Craig, for 4 of you. Karen said she's still getting inquiries. Are you still getting people looking for after we all get back to work? Are you picking up inquiries still?
Yeah, we the first week obviously it went completely dead for us. We didn't get any new inquiries. We were working on a few at the time, which we kind of put on hold. Actually, after this weekend, we did a little bit of pretty successful marketing on Facebook as a platform. We received 7 new inquiries from that, and 2 of them are fairly high value. And actually the ones that we were working on before lockdown completed, we have booked 2 of them in the last couple of weeks, and we are probably 95% of the way of booking another 3 of them into our schedule. So I think the last week in particular has become much more positive, and I think now the panic almost has died down and people have kind of got to a bit more of a level head with everything. People are still planning and trying to progress forward with things.
So Craig, is that in line with inquiries that you would expect to be getting if things were normal this time of year, or is that down or up?
No, I mean, inquiry rate's definitely down. I mean, we're in the last couple of years, we haven't really tried to market our business in terms of getting more inquiries at this time of year. We found in years gone by, I'm sure everybody's the same this time of year, you don't really need to advertise. So we have changed a little bit and put a bit more advertising in, but I would say it's understandably down for the time of year it is, but there is still work there and good value work as well.
Okay, same question, David.
My business model is a bit different because I just work with garden designers, so they provide all the leads. I do absolutely zero marketing for my business. But I spoke to one of them a couple of days ago, and she said that yes, there were 1 or 2 inquiries coming through, but nothing like normal. So that's where that is at the minute. So I don't really know. I'm not actually at that coal phase.
Okay. Martha?
I've got basically the jobs that I was working on before in terms of design, and those are just, you know, carrying on as they were anyway. But I'll be at a much slower pace, that people are less urgent about having things done, you know, straight away. People don't really want you in the gardens, so we're not going to be doing that. But we're just going to carry on designing and getting the ball rolling so that when we do come out the other side, we can jump straight on it, albeit working in a different way, probably with masks and with more gloves and separate tools. I mean, they were talking this morning about, you know, we are going to have to wear masks, so that's fine. We'll wear masks.
Yeah. Herman, what about the North London market?
I mean, we work quite a lot closer on our website, you know, so, and obviously social media, but website has, and I've got Google My Business, which I urge everyone that's running a small business to have one, Google My Business, because it does help, you know, talk to your website designer. And first week I was in a bit of a shock. I didn't know where I was, you know, so I wasn't even looking at the inquiries I was getting, you know, so, and then after that, has gone down by 30%. But what I've done, I've spoken with my website designer, and we made our clients aware that we are doing, we actually got a little text on our front of our website says that we are, you know, we are not running the business as usual, but we're taking inquiries, and then we got the process for that, and had 4 inquiries last 5 days, which 2 of them they're quite good to design, and the other 2 they just mainly landscaping. So has gone down, but I think improving, letting the clients know is very important. So you are out there and you are taking inquiries, because before that, all the inquiries I was getting, they were, are you still working? Are you around? Or I said, yeah, I'm around, you know. So then I said, website designer, let's get that on our website. Let's show our clients. Let's tell the designers they work with, because as David, we've got quite a few designers to work with, that we are working. Obviously, we're not going to do the garden for you now, but if you got a project that you want us to quote, please do send it over, because we can get the ball rolling now, rather than just leaving it when we come back to work. Yeah.
So I guess this is more focused for the landscapers, but it might do. In terms of your supply chain and the cash flow, how are you managing the payment of the supply chain, and how also are you looking at assuring any of your new leads or new potential leads that the business is going to be around, the business is stable? Are you getting pressure on people asking you how you're going to deal with, or how you're going to come through this period of time, like financially? And have you got any advice to other people who will obviously have some cash flow? The market is sort of going to dry up for, I don't know, maybe 3 months in total before the cash starts to flow through. How are you reassuring your new customers or new clients, and also how are you managing the supply chain in terms of making sure that payments are made and everything's okay for you? Do you want to start with that one, David?
As far as reassuring new prospective clients, clearly that's not an issue, because I haven't got any. The existing clients, the one we're working with at the moment was due for a second phase payment, and I was just completely open and honest with her. I said, look, we're going to have to stop working fairly soon. I just invoiced you for 30 grand. Actually, that's more than getting us up to the point where we are. So I will go back, re-look at that, calculate exactly what we've done for you, exactly what materials you've got, and we will leave it at that point. And she clearly really appreciated that, and funnily enough eventually said, no, it's all right, just have the 30, that's fine. But it was more a case of being absolutely open and honest and communicating, and I think that is your critical bit, is to actually kind of go, this is how it is, we're all in this together, I'm going to be completely open and honest with you.
Are you worried about cash flow and how it's going to affect your business?
If we can carry on working now going forwards, no. I've got enough in the business to carry us through. My concerns are whether we're all talking about when we get an as if there's going to be some specific date, you know, VE Day, Virus Ends Day, September or whenever it is, and we don't really know. Now our economy is going to do in my mind, going to do one of three things. It's going to look like either like a V, in that it's just going to bounce straight back up again. And I think if we can get back to work now, moving forwards, that may happen. I think it's possibly going to look more like a U, because I think it's going to take longer for us to get back to work than we think it's going to, and going to be these inevitable delays in the supply chain. So we may have guys that can work, but we've actually got no materials for them to work with. Now, if that becomes an extended period of time, the economy may start looking like an L, like a capital L, and then we're really in trouble. And I think those three scenarios are what I've got in my mind. So I'm sort of slightly confident that we'll be okay from here on in. But if it moves from U to L, then no, I can't sustain that.
Okay, Craig, on to you then. So in terms of how you're reassuring your current customers, how confident your cash flow will see the business through a period of time, and what you're doing with the supply chain?
Yeah, so firstly, I wanted to totally agree with David. I think honesty with current clients and prospective clients is key, and they do appreciate it. We've already had conversations with some of our prospective new clients and been completely honest with them. We've slightly changed our T's and C's, so we did a booking deposit before that was non-refundable. We're now saying to any new clients that come on, look, we understand where we are at the moment with things, so we will take a booking deposit. It will be fully refundable should you choose to cancel, or if we need to cancel the work. So we've added a little bit of assurance there to current clients, and that's gone down quite well in convincing them to part with some money to book in. I think we're going to start using our trade associations to reassure people. So we're going to start really pushing forward with, we're APL members, so we're really going to push to clients that we're part of the APL Trade Association. We're going to be looking at talking to them more about Trustmark and what, as an APL member, we're offered. Going over with them, you know, that we are inspected and reviewed from a financial perspective by the APL, just to try and enforce some reassurance to them that we're actually a stable business, and we are generally assessed on that, to try and build some confidence. Our cash flow, we had our forecast yesterday. I was speaking to Jim about this just a short while ago, which has kind of put me in a positive mood for the short term, and you know, we're going to be able to manage through with a relatively low income in the coming sort of month or two. After that is the big unknown, and like David, I think if we can start to get back to work, albeit perhaps not at full steam, but at least get you know, up to 50% of our income coming back in, then we'll be able to manage for a few more months than what we're expecting. I don't have many views on how the economy is going to recover or be after this. So I'll probably follow whatever advice David's giving.
Herman, then, same question for you.
I mean, first thing that I've done when I've done a obviously cash flow forecast, you know, how much that would cost us if we're not at work, you know. So I mean, that was the first week. I just had great great help with my business coach. And another thing that I've just done, the same forecast, I just took that to my bank and told them, you know what, we haven't got any money coming in. Obviously, we've got savings and we can run, but we need to make sure that you know, we have we have enough money to carry on with the projects that we've got, because as it stands, I have about £200,000 signed contracts, you know. So, and I only had a project of £30,000 where the client came back to me, oh, we just don't think we can do it because we don't think can afford it. Can you pay the deposit back? So I said, you know what, it was about 10% deposit. I've just paid it back. It wasn't, because when people can't afford to do their landscaping, or you'd rather not get involved and, you know, just don't do it, you know. So, but to go to that question, how we can make sure, how to tell clients that we have got good cash flow and we can support, you know, our business is sustainable to support the project, you know. So, I mean, another thing that I'm looking at is reducing the amount of the deposits, you know, so, and giving them options of payments rather than 3 or 4 payments. Just do it in 8 payments, you know, if it's a large project. Our projects are most of our projects are between 20 to 80,000 pounds. So rather than telling them four large installments or 5, you could do it in more options. And I've done that on the past, and that works very successfully. Another thing that I'm looking at is insurance back guarantee. I don't think that costs there, but it could, when you get a deposit from the clients, you tell them if your company goes bankrupt, they'll get the money back from the insurance.
Okay. David, come back on that.
Just going on from that, for APL members who are Trustmark registered, Trustmark actually have an escrow account sort of set up, and I think it only costs about £6, but you can effectively pay the client pays into the account, and then the whole thing is set up, phase payments, blah blah blah. So there are other options, and as well as Herman said, there, you know, there's deposit insurance that you can get. I think the Trustmark one only goes up to about 30,000 full project value, but there will be other schemes out there. So there are ways to reassure clients, I think.
So, David, while you're there, so in terms of what Herman's saying about making more but smaller payments and giving a deposit back, what's your advice on that then? Is that a good way of going it?
If somebody asked me for a deposit back and I hadn't done any work, I would give it to them straight away, purely from a moral point of view. I certainly wouldn't try and hang on to it for any reason. If significant work has been done, that's a slightly different kettle of fish. But I think, yeah, smaller phase payments, I think, is a great idea. The trouble is you can end up almost never-endingly invoicing if you're not careful. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. But I think over time, once you're in a job and you're talking to people, what have you, the trust comes anyway, and you'll probably find that you can just go back to normal business at that point.
Okay, Karen, slightly different for you in terms of cash flow, though, but have you looked at how that could affect the business if it goes on for much longer?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant that the government has stepped in and are helping. So obviously that's brought us all a bit of time, no matter how big or small the business is. I think in every situation, sort of no matter how turbulent, there's always opportunity. And I think in this case, it makes sure that we concentrate and focus on our figures, and you know, we can really kind of scrutinize how we're running our businesses, what we're spending money on, what we need to improve on, and as a result of that, you know, I was feeling quite overwhelmed last week, and I put together a 6-week kind of plan, and that includes what I'm going to do on the other side of this as well, in terms of making sure that we're running off our P&L and looking at cash flow, and fees and things like that. So it's not necessarily something I need to worry about right now, but it has identified areas that I need to perhaps improve on or focus on. I think it's really humbling and sort of heartwarming to see what the associations are doing, and it's never been a better time to belong to an association, because there's just so much support out there. So even, you know, that's not necessarily relative to me, sort of the conversation at the moment, but certainly in those groups. And, you know, if you're considering a business coach, there's never been a better time to be involved in something like that, because you've just got that camaraderie and can really sort of bounce things off of each other.
What about you, Martha? Are you worried about contractors and how you choose contractors for jobs, or how you recommend contractors for jobs in terms of their cash flow and how it would affect your business?
Well, I think what I did initially was I tried to consolidate things and made sure I kept my cash flow coming in where possible, and then I made sure I didn't block up the supply chain. I paid everybody I owed money to. In terms of choosing contractors, I've got a kind of a good raft of people that I work with, and you know, they're eminently trustworthy. I've built up lots of relations over the years now, and I would always choose a contractor based on what the client's budget is, because it's horses for courses. You know, some people just cannot afford a higher end contractor, but and the quality is going to be the same. It's who is prepared to do the smaller jobs, say, for example. I think it's, as Karen says, it's great that the government stepped in and to pay people, you know, grants are available. I haven't needed to do that at this stage because I'm not affected in the way that landscapers are or a larger company is.
Okay. And in terms of your maintenance part of the business, is that completely gone on hold, or you sub it out? Is that completely on hold?
It's reduced back. Some people are happy to wait for maintenance. Their clients are naturally nervous. On the commercial projects where there's nobody on site, that's maintenance is going ahead. I just have to play it by ear and see what people want, be really sensitive to what clients would like to happen next. But obviously plants keep growing and areas need tidying up. So we have to keep on top of it where we can, but just really adhering to the government guidelines. You know, masks and safety.
Craig, you want to come back on something?
Yeah, I was just saying, going back to sort of reassuring clients and looking at new ways to convince clients or reassure clients to book in with us. Something that's come up in our strategy talks is offering a personal finance scheme for some of our garden builds. So perhaps if people, you were saying, Jim, about, you know, some of these bigger ballers, if you like, that perhaps won't get their bonuses this year, are they still going to commit? And our thoughts with that type of client is that they're used to living a certain lifestyle, so they still want to live that lifestyle, albeit that they might not have the funds readily available to pay for it. So we're looking quite in depth at the moment at being able to offer some of our clients a finance scheme on their build. I know the APL and Trustmark have actually got something in place that's available to APL members, although I think it's on quite a small scale at the moment, and they're looking to move that. I think it's up to £25,000 in finance at the moment. So if you're an APL member, you can talk to the APL or Trustmark about having the ability to offer that scheme to clients. I think for us, that's a big game changer in the climate that's coming.
So Craig or David on that then. So basically the deposit gets put into an account, somebody holds that account, and that doesn't get released until you've either fulfilled your part of it. Is that right? It's a bit like the ESCO or the if you're renting a house out, they hold a deposit and that doesn't get paid until it doesn't get paid until the job's been done or the stage of the job's been done.
Yeah, I'm unsure fully to the scheme as what I know about it so far, and we'll be looking into this in the coming weeks, is it's effectively just going to be a personal finance option that you can provide to your clients. So as such as saying, you know, the garden's going to cost £25,000, for example, and the client's saying, well, actually, I've only got 10 available now, but I really want the work done. It's about being able to offer to the client, okay, well, you know, you could take the other 15 on a finance scheme, and here's one that we can offer you. So it's kind of more, I think, based around that than an escrow kind of protecting a deposit or protecting a payment until the scheme's completed. But as I say, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. It's something that we're going to be looking at. I know the APL are offering something with Trustmark, and it's something we're going to be investigating as a really good potential marketing strategy for us.
Do you not, not make you feel nervous doing something along those lines? Because as soon as you start thinking or saying things like that, I think to myself, oh, I'm not sure. Because basically it's got to be underwritten. So you're either going to be paying an insurance fee, so you're going to be losing some of the money yourself. If they're doing that, does it mean that they can't afford it and it's going to be on the never type thing? I don't know what anyone else feels, but I feel that makes me feel slightly nervous. Maybe you, Herman, what do you think about that?
I'm not sure about that. That could work. Obviously, it's an option, and I'm always positive of giving the clients as many options as possible, because you are there to make the sales. You just don't want to just. You want to offer them better service, not reduce, giving them 10% discount. So I would rather, take the finance option if that's the case, because finance probably will cost you about 2%, not 10 or 15%. And especially if we get a bit less jobs, which I think that will be, personally, I think that will be the case towards the end of the year and going towards next year, so we want to be out there and make these sales, so I'll definitely consider that as an option, but not right now, where we know we got projects going up to up to sort of 3-4 months, so we don't want to do that now, but it's something worth considering.
Yeah.
I wasn't just saying that we would offer that to every single client. It's just something that will be in our toolbox as a tool, and if we feel that it's the right situation or it's going to win us a project and it fits right with that client, it's something that we can offer our clients as an addition to what we're currently offering that might help them with their buying confidence, if you like.
So David, this may be more for next Monday's association one, but do you think the associations should have that scheme where they might hold a deposit as an independent person and it to give the confidence to the market that this landscaper is good, we'll hold a deposit and we won't release the deposit to the landscaper until the work's been done?
I don't think it's incumbent upon the associations to do that, no, but it certainly doesn't hurt, as the APL are doing, is investigating ways for that to be facilitated but by a third party. But no, I don't think that's up to the associations to set up.
Do you think it'd be a really good thing for the market to have that confidence, though, to have that as a support and as a backup, both ways really, for the landscaper as well as for the client?
I think, Craig is the consummate sort of looker into everything from what I've seen, and I think there's got to be a better way of putting it. But no, I think the armoury has to extend. There's no two ways about it, and that is an avenue to investigate. It's going to suit some people, it's not going to suit others, but I certainly wouldn't discount it.
Yeah. There was a comment that's just come up actually from someone, which is a really good idea. With the interest rates where they are at the moment, surely it's going to be better for the client to raise personal finance than it is maybe to using a scheme where the interest rates might be slightly higher. Craig? Yeah,
I agree. I think in most cases, if the client can access finance themselves personally, or some clients like to sometimes will remortgage to free up some money, and if that's available to a client and it gives them a more cost-effective option, then yeah, for sure. I think some clients, they're not going to have the capacity to do that, the availability to do that, and if them clients are there and they need a little help, it's just something to offer. It's really based around looking at clients on an individual basis and how you can help them and what you can offer them to complete the sale, basically. Okay, and just moving on slightly then from that. So during this time, have any of you looked at your terms and conditions? There's another question that's come in. And have you made any amendments in light of the circumstances? Should we start with you, Karen, on that one?
Something we've been looking at on a regular basis anyway. I think it's really healthy, regardless of the pandemic or anything, to be kind of keeping up to date with that. And I know that Alan Sargent and his landscape libraries has got some really great content in there. So it's something that we've been looking at anyway, but certainly just again, sort of using the time we do, not to make light of what's going on out in the world, but we do seem to have been given a bit of a gift of sort of time at the moment. Yeah, time to kind of think, time to plan. time to be with your families, you know, time to look at the business more. So certainly, I'm certainly taking time to just look at some of those things more and make them all a little bit more watertight.
Okay, Martha, have you looked at your terms and conditions and payment terms? And
yeah, I mean, it's, as you say, Karen, it's given us a little bit of a slower pace. So it's given us that opportunity to tidy up our business model and look at strategy and how we operate. So yeah, so the phased payment thing, I think, is a really good idea. It makes it more manageable. I take your point, David, about it means more invoicing. You'll be forever invoicing, but sometimes it just makes it more palatable for the clients. And in terms of just terms and conditions, generally speaking, it's always a good time to tidy those up and look at the way, you know, all your own payments, things, just tidy up everything where possible. I think that was mentioned by John Melmo and Mark Gregory and John Wire in the first summit.
Yeah. Herman, have you changed anything in your terms and conditions?
I haven't changed anything yet. It's just working more with its risk assessment method statements, you know, so both for the safety of the staff, but that's nothing to do with terms and conditions. I mean, what I'm planning to do, as I said, it's very important we get that business coming in. So I'll give the clients, going back to the answer I gave, I'll give the clients the options to have more payments, and then if they want to. I mean, it's very easy with technology these days. You can set up on your Xero to get an invoice every 2 days to clients if they want that, or 3 days, you know. So it does help, you know.
So one of the questions that's just come in then, the thorny subjects of redundancies, and I guess, you know, speaking to a few people, that at the moment, because of what the government have done in terms of the furlough, sorry Craig, I did say I'll try and steer clear of it, but the easy option isn't until, I think initially they're saying 3 months. Do you think in the end that might come back to something you're going to have to look at? Maybe David on that?
Personally, it's taken me a hell of a long time to get together the team that I've got, and I would almost prefer to see the business go than lose the team, to be honest, because they're absolutely brilliant. So that would be a huge decision for me. I have to say that I think if people are going to start thinking about redundancies, they need to think about it now, because they've got to give a 45-day notice period. So we could do with some steer from government as to whether this furloughing period is going to be extended or not, because some employees could get in a bit of a pickle there. But personally, that would be my very, very last course of action.
Just explain that 45 days then.
Employment law says you've got to, if you're going to make somebody redundant, you've got to give them 45. You've got to start a process 45 days beforehand.
Depending on the length of time they've been there, or
that I don't know. I'm not completely up to speed with it. It was something I was reading a couple of days ago. But clearly, an employer, if they know that they can continue to furlough, they probably won't make people unemployed. But if they don't know that they can furlough, they stand a very big risk there. So they're putting themselves in a position where they may have to make somebody redundant and have no money as well.
Craig, what about you in terms of redundancy then? Have you given that consideration?
No, not at the moment. I mean, I think it's very scary talk to start, and obviously perhaps for some businesses it's sensible, but I think with you know, the economy as it is at the moment and the outlook and where we are thinking that we're going to be back up to full steam, we're not really considering that as an option. We don't feel at this point that we need to. I'm with David. For us, it would be the very, very last thing. We would actually look to downsize our overhead significantly before losing our team. So I'm back in my home office at the moment. So, you know, if I need to take a hit, it will be losing our external office and working from home. And we'll be looking at every other avenue before doing that. Like David, it takes a very long time to build a good team. We're almost a family unit. And it will be, you know, be the last thing on our list. But no, we're not considering it at the moment, and I don't think that we're in a position nationally at the moment where we need to start thinking about that as a small business.
Okay. Pro Landscape have done a very, very quick online research, and out of 224 people that answered it, 40 of them said that they're going to increase the number of staff afterwards because they think there's going to be a massive work pressure to do and get on with it. 164 said they think the staffing levels they've got going into it will be the staffing levels they'll have coming out of it and for time after. And 20 people said that they think they might have to reduce the numbers because of the work that they're going to lose. So I guess there is a mixture, but the majority of people, 204 out of the 224 are saying that the staff will stay the same or will increase. So just going back to something you said, Craig, and one to everyone, has anyone looked at their costs and come up with some areas that they can save, not just for now, but maybe going into the future? Martha, do you want to have a look at, have you looked at your cost base and where you can save money?
Well, because I don't really have many overheads because my office is from my home. It's at the bottom of my garden. So everything's really quite tidy at the moment. I think the only thing I could probably do is just, as Herman was saying, just offer a better service, you know, not offer reductions on anything for clients. So, I can't really see where I can tackle anything other than negotiating better phone deals or internet deals, that kind of thing.
Okay, Karen, have you looked at your cost base?
Yeah, I think I'm the same as Martha. I haven't got huge overheads. I think it'll be more a case of making sure we're a lot tighter with our charging. So once we've gone through, say, the master plan stage, and if we're charging on an hourly rate for extra kind of work, making sure that we record everything, making sure that our timesheets are recorded really well, so that we're not kind of leaving any money on the table, basically, and making sure that, I think as much as we were talking about inquiries earlier, I think it's going to be really important to screen those inquiries. You know, there is a huge focus on gardens at the moment. They're people's saving grace, I think, for those that are lucky enough to have a garden. And I think that will continue, and I think there will be a massive boom for people having more focus on the garden. So making sure that our fees are correct. So really kind of how we can earn more and rather than cut costs, because I don't have massive overheads. I haven't got the complications that some of these guys might have. So.
Okay, Herman, what about you in terms of your cost base?
I think that's a really important talk. It's very important for us as a business owner, especially if you employ people, you know. So I've just looked at in detail. I've just actually gone through the whole year, you know, gone a bit of mental, you know, so with it. Because, and I found out lots of surprises of people. I mean, not people taking money out of me, I wouldn't say that, but I didn't make use of things that I was buying, you know, and then I've cancelled. I had a company called Keep. They're part of QuickBooks as well, and I was paying them for their CRM about £120 a month. Then I had two clients there. I was, oh my god, oh dear, you know, what's going on, you know. So because I was one of these guys going crazy on technology, what I need this and that and that. Then I thought, you know, whatever I use, and I think, you know, not going in very depth, whatever you could do to save on cost, you know, especially on things that you don't use, even £1 that comes out of your profit, you know, it's not money on the business, that could have been your profit. So just if you don't make use of it, just save it, you know. So.
I think Karen said a really good point. And very, very rare do you get a chance in life where you're forced to not do things that you do on a daily basis, and it gives you the time to look at your business and go through every single cost line and where it's saving, what to do. I know some of the bigger companies who have taken their staff off the road have sworn their vehicles and cancelled their insurance or delayed their insurance, just anything small that helps to do it. One thing, another question that's come up, I'm not sure if it's happened to anyone, but has anyone had a client not paying because of this situation? No, everyone's shaking their heads.
We're working with a couple of care homes, and you know, I'm not quite sure how they will pan out at the moment, so that could be an issue for us, but time will tell.
And normally care homes are fantastic because they're such a profitable business in the best of times, and normally people say, oh, you get into some care homes, that's good regular work, and you know, it's well paid. The other thing on the question that came up earlier is in terms of like the technology you're using now to speak to your clients and relate and do things. Is there anything you've learned that you would take into the new world once we come out?
I think this will change the way we work dramatically for a lot of companies. We we had migrated over to Microsoft Teams last year, so but wasn't really using it to its full capacity. So it's kind of forced our hand in a way, but it was a very seamless transition to start working, doing video conference calls and things. And we're saving ourselves massive time of not going up to, say, client meetings in London that take an hour, but takes half a day, to travel up there. It means we can kind of check in with each other. I think when we come out of this, it'll be very important to kind of go fairly slow in some ways, because we're all going to have suddenly got used to being at home, being around family, things like that. So I think emotionally, the video conference and the remote working will be very effective just to kind of transition everybody back to a normal pace, whatever normal might be. But I think the technology is going to make a huge difference on how we all work.
Okay. Craig?
Yeah, I think this subject is tied quite closely in with looking at reducing overheads within a business, and we've almost all been forced into technology at the moment with things like what we're doing now, and it's kind of definitely opened our eyes up in one perspective. So at the moment we're still pricing projects, but we have a new scheme in place, so we'll talk either virtually or on the phone to our client. Then we'll ask for access in. There'll be one person go into the garden to take measurements, then we'll come away from the garden, and then we'll communicate again with the client, either online or over the telephone. And what we found is that's actually reduced our initial consultation time by about half an hour per project. It doesn't seem like a lot, but over a year, that's a huge amount of man hours. And I think little things like that at the moment, people are going to start sort of recognising that as a saving and a potential good way to move forward. And I think them little bits of technology use over a financial year can make a huge impact to a small business. And I think them sort of things will be considered more moving forwards.
David, have you anything you're doing now that? Perfect.
Yeah, the main thing is actually the Zoom technology, as Karen was saying earlier. This ability to talk to the entire landscaping and garden design community with people that we've never interacted before, people that you know their face and everything, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's so supportive. And I've also moved that on to, I now have Zoom meetings with my guys, and they've kind of, and it's giving value that I didn't know was there. And I think also going forwards, I will encourage more interaction with clients like this rather than phone calls, and I think they will be used to doing it as well, because you can read somebody's body language so much better when you're looking at them, and you can tell if something's just making them a little bit unhappy or what have you. You can then get onto it straight away rather than waiting 3 phone calls down the line. So yeah, the Zoom technology has been great for me. Otherwise I avoid technology like the plague.
But Martha, in terms of like getting the feel for someone when you're designing their gardens, can you do that on Zoom, or do you still feel that you need to be there and actually feel the presence of the person?
I think as David just said, you can actually read quite a lot from the person's face in a Zoom meeting, and I think it's fantastic. And I've really enjoyed these summits. I found them so supportive, particularly in the beginning when the crisis when it hit us. It was an awful time. We were dealing with a moving target, and listening to people in the industry giants like David Dodd, Mark Gregory, John Wire, John Melmo. It was fantastic to hear what they were going through, and even Ken White, what he was going through at the time. But the brilliant thing about the Zoom as well is you can actually just be dressed on the top half and nobody needs to.
Shall I ask everyone to stand up, or do you have too much?
But Jim, on a serious note, as Helen Elk Smith said, you have to go to the site to get a feel for the place, and there's nothing can replace that. And I often go and I spend quite a long time just sitting there, and I also track where the sun is, and I find I'm missing that aspect of it. Plus the other thing is when we did go and plant a site, the job recently, the client stayed in the house, or they were on an upper balcony, and I really missed that interaction with the client and walking around and talking them through the plants, and even showing the children, what the plants are going to do, and that was. I'm looking forward to beyond the COVID virus and when we can get back on site and do all of that. But in the meantime, I think Zoom's fantastic.
There's a question that's come up about childcare during these circumstances, has it affected? David, you got a smile on your face there. Then, has it affected how you're working?
Oh, massively, yeah. Well, as you know, I've got my daughter on my own, and so we've gone from homeschooling to 3 weeks Easter holiday, and we're back on homeschooling next week. So yeah, it's beyond challenging, frankly.
How are you balancing it?
Oh, really badly, to be honest. I'm not. Honestly, I'm not. I'm far too old to be doing it to start off with, and well, how I balance it. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I do about 3 hours work, and then India gets up, and that's the day. Sort of, I just dip in and out of the day then. But I get it done. But I don't have a massive business to run, and on purpose, because I know I have to look after my daughter. She comes first, so my business is fitted around that lifestyle now.
Yeah.
So
what about you, Craig? Then, in terms of balancing your social media videos and your work and your child support?
Obviously my wife's doing a fantastic job at the moment. I've got a 4-year-old and twin 2-year-olds just about to turn 2. So all of an age where they're absolutely mental most of the time. 2 of them are crawling around on the floor below the desk, you can't see. But no, they're not. 10 minutes before we set up this meeting, I was making a cardboard car with one of my daughters. And I think, everybody who has children at this time and is working from home, it is an issue. But I think the positive out of it, and what I've found, is that in moments of distress or stress, anxiety, I've had my family close to home, and I've actually it's put it into perspective for me what's key and what's important, and also given me a bit of a morale boost. So my hours have changed. I'm working a little bit further into an evening and working around some nap times. But I think everybody is just trying to make it all work as best they can at the moment. But I think the really positive is that it's really brought home what's important in life, and how your family actually do really affect you mentally, and it's actually been a slight improvement for me in terms of mentality. Not productive, but yeah, it's positive for me. So
whilst you're there, Craig, I think there's a tongue-in-cheek question come back. So all these savings you're doing on terms of not spending so much time on clients and saving half an hour, is that reflected in the price you quote?
It will be, most definitely. Part of our strategy moving forward. So we've sort of identified 3 key markets within where we work, and one of the things across all 3 of their markets is to try and be more competitive with our pricing. Inevitably we're going to need to be in the future. We don't think we can devalue our work, but if we can save some of our overheads and pass that on to a client, then yeah, that's definitely what we will be doing.
One of the concerns, and I guess it's one for everyone as we're getting very close to wrapping up, is that when the market comes back and there is as much work in 6 months' time, people start lowering their price and chasing work. What's your thoughts on that? And are you going to be strong enough to hold the price and sell the quality of what you do, rather than sort of have this circle where it just gets further and further down to the cheapest price wins work? So should we start with Karen in terms of pricing? What's your strategy and model going forward?
Yeah, certainly we won't be reducing our fees. It's taken us long enough to kind of get to this point and work out our price point. There'll be certain things that I probably take a view on. So usually I know designers are different in the way they set up their business model, but usually we would charge for an initial consultation. So at the moment I'm not, but then I'm doing it on a video conference and it's much quicker, and I'm not spending money on petrol and things like that. And obviously it's a very different time at the moment. We're breaking down our the phase of how we do a project. So rather than just charging for a master plan, we're charging for an initial sort of consultation, a concept phase, which is a lot more palatable for clients at the moment financially, so they can perhaps just have a concept stage. By that point we've earned their trust and built a relationship with them, and we can kind of build onto master plan. Essentially I'm hoping we don't have to reduce sort of fees. It's not something I want to do at the moment, that's for sure. And I think it's important the industry does that as sort of united together as well. It's a time where we can show off the industry and make the best of it rather than go backwards.
David, in terms of pricing then, staying strong?
Yeah, the race to the bottom is not going to help anybody, and I watched it happen in 2009, 2010. I think what we probably have to accept is that the value of the job we're going to do is going to drop for a while, and that will reflect the fact. I mean, we're in a recession now. We're not going to be in one, we are in one, and we're in one of the biggest recessions that we've ever seen. So there will be an economic fallout from this one way or another. We're not all going to come bouncing back like little Jack in the boxes, you know, charging exactly the same and doing exactly the same work. I think if you hold your nerve and accept that you may have to be fighting for smaller jobs, but you can still do that on quality and quality of service. And work on yourself. Make sure that you're the person that you know the potential client likes the most, and work on your selling technique and everything else. But we do have to hold our nerve, because if we start dropping prices, eventually that leads to businesses failing. It just does.
Okay, Herman, then as a growing business and as a business that's looking to expand,
I actually totally agree with David and Karen. You know, it's exactly the same thing. Also, one thing that I usually do, and probably most of us do, is something like I call it testing and measuring. You know, every client, I get it or not, or every designer, I just pick up the call and call them. You know, why did you choose us, or why you didn't choose us? You know, so both you got to ask this question. You know, so and they tend not to tell you exactly. Then if you push them a bit more, you know, so especially if you get the job, which is very important, tell them, because they'll tell you, oh, Herman, you're £4,000 cheaper. Oh, thank you very much. You know, so that's where I need to get them to be a bit more. You know, so, and you feel, oh dear, you know, so that's why I got chosen. You know, so or the other way around. You know, so if you don't get the project because you were too expensive, and I've been in both situations. But definitely, I wouldn't lower the prices. I would see that as a last option. If we have to slightly, we have to, but that's the last option. If rather than going to losing staff, you'd either have not making 15% profit or 20%, making 10% profit. But you got to know your numbers. You can't lower your pricing and you're making 3% loss. You know, so.
Okay, Martha, pricing.
I think, as David said, and others have also said in the industry before now, you have to hold your nerve, accept that there may be less jobs or fewer jobs, but just make my designs work harder, make the budget go further. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be spending less time. Therefore, you know, my fees are based on the time I spend to create a garden for somebody. But I would always look at cost-effective and more ecological ways of designing somebody's garden. So whether it's rain gardens or, you know, just planting a garden that doesn't need as much water. So I'll just be working harder and reducing costs.
Okay. Craig, then, so to feed your teams and make sure you've got enough work, what's your strategy on the rate?
Sorry, say again, sorry.
So with your teams, I don't know how many you said, was it 8 people that you've got to make sure are paid each month? How are you going to work in terms of rate if the work is drying up?
I don't see the work drying up at the moment, so I haven't really made a strategy around that. I think we're in a fairly positive position at the moment. I think just going back to sort of streamlining our business as best as we can to be as productive and profitable as possible, and going back to, you know, if we can streamline our business, then, you know, offering some form of benefit to the client, not reducing our costs just for the sake of reducing our costs, but if we, you know, if we take half an hour's consultation out because we continue to use Zoom, then passing on some of that benefit to a client is something we'll definitely do. But going back to your question, I think I don't see at the moment a lull in our bookings, our work. We look quite strong coming out of this for the next 4 or 5 months in terms of workload coming in. So we haven't really looked at that in depth.
Okay, there was a question, I'm not sure, maybe hands up if anyone's done this. Has anyone looked at the government loan schemes? And if they have, I guess the question is, how was it? Was it easy enough to go through? No. Oh yeah, Herman.
I have actually, so after going through a few of seminars and everyone saying that, so I waited about 6 hours on Barclays to till they just hung up, so then somehow I managed to send them an email and through the chat live, and they called me back. The forms are quite straightforward, so I mean, if you have got your numbers there were, so, and I've applied for a bit, but it's my type. I've applied for a bit larger loan. They said, no, you can't have that, so because your turnover, is only that, and then we think, you happy? I was like, that was my number at the beginning, so it's going through the process now. They said it's about 10 days, but
Okay, well, good luck. We'll come back on that. So we have run out of time. Just one more for everyone in terms of a comment. We haven't really talked about suppliers and liaising with suppliers, talking to suppliers. Are you continuing to do that? What's sort of the topic of the conversations in terms of pressure on prices for them, or supply chain for them, or when they're going to come back online? And finally, then, as it's your last thing, just like last bit of positive news, maybe as we go round. So I'll start with you, Craig.
So the first point on suppliers, I honestly would just urge everybody to just communicate and be as honest as possible with all suppliers. We built good relationships with all our suppliers. We talk to them now still weekly. We don't have huge issues at the moment because we don't have much work going on. But what we will do as we plan to start back up is start looking at our material supplies. Rather than being a week ahead in bookings, we'll be looking 4 weeks ahead. So we'll be looking to organise our materials way in advance of when we need them on site to try and counteract the fact that the availability of materials isn't quite as it should be at the moment. But really for me, honesty and communication with suppliers. There was a question came up about putting pressure on suppliers. I don't think putting pressure on any business at the moment is going to be productive. In fact, actually probably counterproductive. I think the way forward is just being completely honest and working with your suppliers. So one example is we use a local supplier around here. I tend to spend £10,000 to £12,000 a month with them. A £10,000 invoice came in. We're still waiting on a payment for a project to complete. I phoned the supplier and I said, I explained the situation, and I said, look, I can pay £5,000 now, that's not a problem, but I'm going to have to wait on the other 5 until we've been paid. They communicated with their accounts, and based on our history and our relationship, that's all fine. They're going to extend our credit limit, and they're going to work with us to get that payment in. And I think if people can do that continuously through this difficult time, we're going to see much less strain on the supply chain, and actually probably help us all build relationships with them. My positive note would just be to everyone, if you're not doing it at the moment, is just market yourselves as best as you can and as cheaply as possible. We market quite a lot on Facebook. I know some people say inquiries come through Facebook are fairly low value, and I think that's just altering your demographic on Facebook when you pay for the ads. I just wanted to give one example. We set up a competition for the Easter weekend. We paid £40 to Facebook to advertise it. We offered a £50 voucher for the best looking picture of a garden that got posted up. We reached 28,000 people with that advert for £40. We had 6.2 thousand engagements on the post. That's with careful demographics. So we were looking at a certain type of people and hobbies. We had 91 comments. A lot of them were previous clients posting their pictures of gardens we'd built, which did an amazing job for any prospective client looking at the post. We had 6 inquiries over the weekend, and 2 of them are good value inquiries. So that's totals cost us £90. Potentially we've got 2 good value. So I think if you can look at clever ways of marketing your business at the minute at an affordable cost, everyone should definitely do that. Don't climb into the woodwork. Get yourself out there, get your brand recognised, and let people know you're still there.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. Karen?
In terms of suppliers, then that would really affect we work with independent landscapers, so that would more affect them. But what we have done is to reach out to certain suppliers to see if they'll do like a simple CPD or sort of video conference with us, just so we can learn more about new materials, perhaps materials we're not using at the moment, swimming pools, architects and things that we work with, just so that we can kind of chat with them more, and they're obviously strategic alliances going forward. So it's just building relationships with them. I know a lot of my friends that are dreading now going back to work at the end of this because they don't like their jobs. So I have an overwhelming feeling of like gratitude, I think, and appreciation that I work in an industry that I absolutely love. I hope that we can all sort of take that through to the other side, and that complacency doesn't set in. I don't know, I feel like there should be something that reminds us every year, not of COVID-19, but maybe some kind of industry award or something at one of the ceremonies that just perhaps recognises, I don't know, outstanding support or courage or something, that just reminds us that little check every year, not to become complacent. So
yeah, very good. Martha?
I think look at ways to work with suppliers differently. So, for example, if we're only allowed fewer crew on site, look at planting smaller trees so that less people are required to carry them. Use Zoom for all the clients. For a small business like mine, look at ways of accommodating smaller projects, so clients, so that they've at least got a garden, and it also keeps the supply chain going and helps the economy long term. I mean, I think we're going to have supplier issues in many ways now, but also much further down the line, because I think supplies coming in will be affected by this massively, and that's what we've got to fail-safe, protect ourselves against in some way. We've got to keep the economy moving in whatever way we can safely.
So about the suppliers is exactly what everyone else have said, so I mean, definitely I wouldn't put pressure on the suppliers. Actually, I'm talking to a few suppliers right now, and they've been really nice answering the phone, although their staff are working from home. And as I'm trying to get some materials on our sites there when we start working. What is important, which we do, but I think to do it a bit more in advance now, to make our project management better, so we don't ask for 30 in a few days time. Let them, keep them aware, where we need it and how you need it. So I mean, that's my advice on that. I mean, a final thing what I would say to everyone is this time is just focus on yourself. Have a clear vision, not just about the business, but your team. Where do you want to go? How much time you want to spend working on the business and working in the business, and what's your market you want to engage yourself to.
Perfect. So David, then the last word.
As far as suppliers are concerned, everybody said everything that needs to be said there. I think what it does do is highlight the value of looking after your suppliers over the years, and also building relationships with the people that work at the builders merchants, because those relationships are going to bear fruit further down the line. As far as a final word, I would probably say, this is, I've done this for this has been my life, this industry, for over 35 years. It's full of very special people. It's a very special industry. It's not an easy industry. To succeed in this, you've got to be innovative, you've got to be industrious, you've got to be courageous, and you've got to be persistent. And I think these qualities will steer through this. And what I really like is this increased collaboration as far as talking to each other via the Zoom meetings and everything else. That is a new element that has been introduced to this. We will succeed through this. There's no two ways about it, because we are a special breed of people.
There's a couple of things. One that sits in my mind more than anything else is John Momo said, "Don't pass the pain down." So if you can afford it, pay it. If you can't afford, pick up the phone and tell them when you're going to pay it. I think that was a really good, I think, for everyone on that. I think the next two meetings have been set up really well. One with the associations, what's going on, but maybe more importantly, the suppliers, where we can ask them questions about how they're going to support the industry and how they want us to work with them going forward. The last thing I've got to do is thank you very much for the audience, but a massive thank you for the panelists today. I really, really appreciate your time and effort and your honesty and your openness. And I think it does help the industry and it does bring us all together. And I guess the final word from me is that just make sure that you're all safe. That's the most important thing. Let's keep safe, keep talking and keep working together. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.